Right.
Do you remember that picture?
Yep.
Who took that?
Steve Pike, MBE.
Did he?
Yeah.
This is a Steve Pike picture.
He's now a member of the British Empire and he lives in New Orleans.
This is when you lived in Hampstead Lane?
Yep, Hampstead Lane. Yep. 29A Hampstead Lane. Next to...
next door to
Pepsi and Shirley. No, Shirley out of Shirley out of Pepsi and Shirley.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
And the guy from...
Martin Kemp.
Martin Kemp.
Yeah.
Very fashionable address.
It's like Stella Street. Yeah, it's in the back room.
God, I'm wearing those Komodo clothes.
Komodo.
That's what the shop was called. It was Komodo. It was all these earthenware fabrics. And then Jamiroquai started wearing them and I stopped.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a good reason to stop wearing
And what's that a close-up of? Is that a Vox?
The back is a... that is a... No, it's not a Vox. It is... What was it now? It's a Bassman. Fender Bassman. It's a 60s Fender Bassman, I can tell you, which I borrowed and I should have bought and I didn't. And I always regret not buying. One of those things I was offered for like, you know, ridiculous price and used it for a couple of weeks, thought it would be fun, and then said, oh, I don't fancy it. And now I wish I did.
Do you remember what that says? It says is drunk, but it doesn't have the... What is drunk? Who is drunk?
Yeah, it's because I spilt beer over the desk.
Right.
And so one of the channels was buggered. And so I had wrote this note saying Channel 7 is drunk to remind me not to use Channel 7. Yeah. There's a picture of John Lennon on there.
Teenage Fan Club.
Teenage Fan Club.
Yeah.
There was my Burt Whedon thing.
NS10.
NS10s, yeah. And we both wore red that day as well, to be authentic. Yeah.
So this was I suppose this is a special edition of the two Yes singles, because back in the day when we did this, it was CD1 and CD2, wasn't it? If you had different B-sides on CD2, you had more chance of having a hit record. Yeah. Because people would buy both versions, so they could get all the tracks.
Yeah, you just bought you had twice as many sales from the same record.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a rip-off, quite frankly.
But this was available at the Hanover Grand, though, wasn't it?
What, that record? I don't know, you couldn't buy that, the Divine, that was like a promo thing, I think.
I seem to remember this, us getting this ready in time for the one-off Hanover
Really?
Grand show.
I don't remember.
Anyway.
I don't remember. What do you remember?
What do I remember?
Yeah.
I remember being... feeling a bit odd, because I was doing McAlmont at the time. And the McAlmont album wasn't a McAlmont album, it was a Thieves album. But because of the way that the world turns sometimes, I ended up promoting the record alone. And the record company put my name on the record, which I didn't like, because it wasn't a McAlmont record, it was a McAlmont and Freeman record, if you like. And somehow I ended up at the Jazz Cafe one night doing a show, and you were there. And my guitarist was really terrified. It's like, you know, oh my God, I can't go on. Bernard Butler's in the audience.
So he should be, yeah.
And I felt a bit strange too. Because I don't think I was alone at the time. But there was that there was that Enemy cover, which like upset everybody, except for the fans, of course. You know, the best new band in Britain. It's like, who the hell are this lot? And I was at Chrysalis Music.
But that was about 2 years before that, and 2 years now is like is nothing.
Yeah, but I was at Chrysalis Music, I remember, and we were in the demo studio. And I don't know if you were one of them, but two guys from Suede came in to have a look at the Chrysalis demo studio. That might have been you, actually.
I don't think that was. You said that. But I don't know what anyone else would be doing there. So people just pretending at the time. Probably did happen.
The Chrysalis was probably after your publishing and showing you what they had going on.
Maybe. I don't remember that, but you know, so much I don't remember.
So yeah, it's a bit like Fight Club.
Yeah.
When you watch Fight Club, before Edward Norton and Brad Pitt actually meet, have you seen Fight Club?
No.
Right. Before Edward Norton and Brad Pitt actually meet, Edward Norton sees Brad Pitt. You get all of these flashes of Brad Pitt in like on like television and stuff. It's only with subsequent views that you actually see Brad Pitt actually forming in Ed Norton's imagination.
Right.
Yeah, but I had no idea that this was going to happen. And it happened because I was at the Reading Festival, probably 1994, and the guy who's working for my manager said to me, "What do you think of Suede?" And I answered honestly, because I was a bit kind of befuddled by what Brett was doing, and all of the stuff about paracetamol and.
Yeah.
And
Albums about paracetamol.
But I thought you were really kind of. I like the hair and the movement and all of that. And I said, yeah, I really like the guitarist. I didn't think anything was going to come of it.
Yeah. Of what? The music?
That comment.
Oh, that comment. Okay, right. Right.
No, not the music.
Yeah.
Yeah, and apparently that's somebody whispered something in Jeff's shell-like, and that's how you came to be there that night.
Right, I don't know, don't remember that. I just remember being told that you were playing the Jazz Cafe and should go and see you and you could sing. And it was as simple as that.
Right, okay.
Yeah. That's
Anyway.
as far as I know. But I remember meeting you with when I was doing Suede record at Britannia Row. I remember you were there. I think I might have come down or something. You were there. You were with Ed Buller. And he was you were working like the week after us or something, and you were at Britannia Row.
Was that before Jazz Cafe?
Yeah, well, I was in Suede, yeah.
Well, okay.
Yeah, long time. Yeah, that's the only point I remember.
Was Lisa with you?
I don't know, probably. Probably was. She always was. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that night...
Jazz Cafe, I remember, all I remember about that is... I remember Mac. I just remember thinking, well, obviously, yeah, he can sing, but like, oh my God, the drummer is loud. That's unbelievable. And I remember just watching him, just thinking, I've never seen someone so animated as a drummer. And I remember those two things, which were really important for me, and that's what made the connection, because I wouldn't have automatically made the connection with yes, basically, as it stood as this sort of idea. If I hadn't seen him, I think, at the same time.
Right,
because
okay.
obviously it opens with drums and it's all about this big noisy drum thing, which I envisaged, but I didn't know who was going to play.
Wow, okay.
And I didn't know who would do it, and I didn't really know anyone who played like that. And then I saw him, and I was just like, oh my God, he's the loudest thing I've ever heard. It's brilliant.
One of the things that has been said of Mako is that he is like John Bonham in the body of a Japanese hobbit.
Yeah, without the excesses, probably, but yeah.
I think what got my attention was that we had a brief conversation after that gig, and you said that you were doing something quite Dusty Springfield, or that you had done something that's quite Dusty Springfield.
Really? Maybe that's just to lure you in.
Well, it worked.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Well, okay, that sounds interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I just remember meeting you and it being really quick, and then you coming around the next day or the day after or something like that. Giving you a tape. I gave you a tape of it, a cassette.
Not that night.
Did I not?
No.
Oh, it must have been...
You just said
Really?
you were doing... No.
Okay. Coy. Hard to get, yeah.
No, you said just come over, so I was over the next day.
The next day then, yeah.
I picked that up,
Yeah.
brought it home, brought it back here, because I wrote the words to Yes in this room. And I really liked the music. I liked the key changes and the energy, and I really liked the mellotron flute in the second verse. I thought that was really that spoke to something in me. And I wrote this thing, and I sang it to Bill. And Bill was like, "Oh, it's a bit one-dimensional, love." And I was like, "Okay, I'll give it another go." And then I came up with that thing, and then I wrote a verse. And I got back to your place the next day with what I'd written, and I felt quite bad because I hadn't come up with a second verse. I hadn't come up with words for a second verse. But then we decided that we didn't need them.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I just thought, well, the first one says it all. Don't worry about it. I mean, I still always think that. I always, when I write songs now with people, just think, yeah, say something, worry about the second verse. You have to have an opening line, and the opening line's the most important thing. The lyric, the melody, the delivery of it, everything. And once you've got that, you're in. The door's open, and then you can fill in the gaps later, and you can say, you know, you can make the story whatever you want. So, and Story of Yes is that's all it was really. And that's what it needs.
Well, it's really emphatic, isn't it? It's, it goes well. I mean, it's actually turned out to be worthwhile repeating. I couldn't have said anything else in that song that I hadn't said already.
Yeah, no, people don't really notice that. It's very lazy, but who cares? You know, good. Less words to remember.
Lazy.
Yeah, well, it is kind of, yeah. Well, it's lazy of me to not try and get you to write anything else as well. But actually, you don't need to.
But you did.
I think that's one of those pop things that you don't need to do. You don't need to do that.
You got me to come up with something for the outro.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There was the outro. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the Dusty thing. I was never really. That was a bit of a lie, because I think that was more in my head than actually. I didn't know that much Dusty Springfield. I didn't know Dusty in Memphis at that point, which is the key thing. So all I knew was I had a K-Tail Dusty Springfield album. So it had You Didn't Have to Say You Love Me and I Only Want to Be With You, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And what Scott Walker were you listening to?
I mean, that was really not true. I mean, I think before that as well, there's a big thing that I was really into Scott Walker. And when you say you're into Scott Walker, it means Scott 4 and, Scott 3. And
Montague Terrace.
Montague Terrace, all that kind of stuff, which means you're a proper fan. But again, I had the greatest hits with No Regrets and stuff like that, which I love. And that's all I listened to, greatest hits at that time. You know, just the pop songs. So I wasn't really into that. Even when I was doing Dogman Star before the Suede stuff. Before that, I was listening to Scott Walker, but I wasn't listening to Scott 4 or any of those records. I was listening to just No Regrets.
But what? Can you remember the moment when you made that decision to write the happiest song imaginable?
Well, you know, I mean, it was the summer, and I was, just left a group, and it was on the one hand horrible, on the other hand quite funny and quite surreal. And it's, you know, and I was living next to Hampstead Heath, and the sun was shining, and, you know, I was on my own completely, absolutely cut. You know, and you leave a band, it's like leaving the planet temporarily, you know, because all your friends, everything, the whole system is cut dead, and you're just suddenly like, oh my God, absolutely everything is gone, and it's a terrible thing and also a brilliant thing at the same time. So you have to just look on it as you know, what can you do, you know, when you've got absolutely nothing left. So
and the conclusion was?
You do something completely different. Do something that makes you happy. You know, I mean, the thing is about being in a group as well, you're tied to a brand name, the way you look, the way you talk, where you are, and what you listen to, what you're referencing, all that kind of stuff. You know, if you're in a band and someone starts going off on a tangent about discussing their love of African techno or something like that, you know, when it's like, well, the PR guy raises eyebrows. So yeah, I mean, I embraced an awful lot of stuff which I had been listening to and I'd listened to for a long time before that, and but which had sort of, you know, you're constrained, you know, and also you're writing for a particular person. When you're outside the group, you're not writing for a particular person. You know, you're not making music that fits a brand and fits a personality. You're making, you know, I was making little soundtracks of my own personality, you know, and the trouble is then having somebody who can fit into that, you know, who can make it work as a song rather than a soundtrack. So yeah, but I mean, all those things, you know, I mean, you know, records with strings and stuff on, and you know, I mean, I was a Motown fan like everyone is, you know. Again, the same way, the greatest hits.
So when you came up with ideas of people to sing the song, as you sent the track out, did you think, yeah, they'll definitely be able to do something?
I didn't send it out. I mean, you were the third on the list.
Right.
I mean, you weren't on a list. I mean, you were the third person who tried. And they're all kind of people with names and baggage and stuff. And I think it's probably a good thing that actually you're the only person involved that first of all you're the only person who actually came to it and just didn't want to change anything, didn't want to do anything, and just sang over it, and it just worked instantly. And secondly, I think that's a good thing long term, that it didn't have any baggage. It wasn't connected to a group, like it wasn't, you know, wasn't being compared to somebody else's records,
Right, okay.
you know,
Yeah.
or somebody else's performances.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't really, and I think that's an interesting part of the story.
What I added to it was really lucky because I've been watching A Star Is Born that week. It was the third version of the second version of A Star Is Born. It was the Judy Garland, what's his name? Anyway, the Judy Garland remake. And she sings The Man Who Got Away in it. James Mason, a song written by Harold Arlen and Ira Gershwin. And when Bill told me it was one-dimensional, I really got stuck. I really didn't know what to do. And so I just kind of went to the vinyl collection and did that. And my finger landed on the soundtrack to A Star Is Born. And I thought, what would Judy Garland do? So that first line is my idea of what Judy Garland would do if she was given your music.
All right, great.
Yeah. So it's like it's a bit like Judy Garland meets Dusty.
She would have done. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's got me out of a lot of holes there. And then luckily, I was still really pissed off with this bloke who kind of dumped me after a shag.
Right.
Yeah. 'Cause it was really romantic. And we'd been seeing each other for a few weeks, been out on dates, had dinner, went to the theatre, and it was all very lovely, and he was all very beautiful. And then he didn't really like my performance, so that was it.
For fuck's sake.
And that was really like, ah. So when the song came, weirdly, I decided that I would write a lyric about what would happen. I was thinking, if I became famous, what would he do? You know, he'd want to know me then. And that was the lyric, which is a really bizarre lyric to write because if you don't become famous, it's kind of redundant. Mm. But luckily, it was a hit.
Yeah.
And the upshot of it was that I went to a Jimmy Somerville gig a few months later, and I met the guy, and he came up to me, he's like, hey, David, hey, how are you? I've seen you on the cover of magazines and everything. And I'm sitting there looking at him thinking, so you want to know me now? It's a prophecy that came true.
So, I mean, that's amazing because people relate to this song who, you know, who are just... one of the things that I love about that song is it has a sort of... its specialness to people. It's not rooted in it being a group. You know, like, you know, you love this group and you love whatever they do and you have the picture on the wall and stuff like that. And it's about that. It's about people like a song because it's spoken to them in a particular way. It's done two things. First of all, it makes you feel elated. You know, it's very uplifting musically, but lyrically, it's a big fuck you. And people love that combination in their ordinary lives. But we're talking about people who aren't famous, who aren't trying to be famous. Very ordinary things, you know, people, the stories people tell. Actually, an awful lot of people have told me they've used this, you know, they've met their future wife, that kind of stuff. You know, so it isn't a kind of a fuck you at the same time. But it's certainly not something that's a stepping stone to to fame. But it's like within people's own lives, maybe it's their own. It's the stepping stone to something special. You know, that's the way people relate to it. I get the feeling. You know.
Well, there was a period. I remember going to a Radiohead gig with Bill. Shortly after the Yes came out, they were playing at Wembley Arena, and as Bill and I walked towards the arena, we were passing more and more fans, Radiohead fans, and they were just shouting, "Yes, I do feel better" at me. You know,
never a good idea.
Then people kept calling me Butler as well, because I thought if it's a black guy and a white guy, well then the white guy has to be McAlmont. So you guys are saying, Butler, Butler, as I'm walking down the street. And so I kind of went through a phase of, you know, that song, you know, a hit as bane of my life. But then in the years since then, the decades since then, I go around the country, do shows, and meet people, and they all say that it helped them through illness, and it helped them get over a messy breakup, walk away from abusive relationships. And that's when I kind of let the song go. It was almost as if though we were channels or something, And you know, even though I participated in the creation of that song, it'll actually become its own thing. You know, and we were a question on the weakest link. Did you not know that? We were a weakest link question. Yeah.
Oh, really? Wow. Yeah, I had an email from Billy McGee the other day. Billy McGee arranged the strings on Yes, and I tracked him down a couple of weeks ago to see if he could remember anything about this whole process. And one of the things, to write any story, you know, anything he can remember. And he said, well, what I remember most, well, he remembers, you know, recording the strings and the air conditioning being broken at Conch, and so the players all played out of tune, and that's part of the appeal of the record. But what he remembers is a couple of years later, him meeting his future wife and her finding that Yes in his collection and saying, I love this record, put this on. And he said, oh, well, I did the strings on that. And she was like blown away by this because it was her favourite song. And so his biggest memory is that he met his wife through that song.
Wow.
And
wow.
And having worked on the strings on it. So that's why it's his favourite thing, which is a nice thing to find out. I hope they stay together.
Well, because the song is functional.
Yeah, it can go back to it any time, any opportunity.
Yeah. What did we write next?
Well, we had to do. Well, there was You Do as well. I mean, the thing was, I had the two tunes that I gave you were Yes and You Do, and
did you give me You Do at the same time?
Probably not at the same time, you know. And but as soon as Yes worked out, I was like, yeah, there's another. But the whole point for me was that there were two sides of the same coin. There was one up and one down, and they were the same chords. It was very geekily conceptual. And
no.
Yeah. Both go from A to F sharp minor. I mean, just simple, stupid thing.
You Do is the same chords as Yes.
Well, yeah, in the chorus, yeah, that's the point. Yeah, so it's one's half speed, and you know.
I never knew that.
Well, you don't need to know that, do you?
You Do is the same as Yes.
Yeah.
That's mental.
Yeah. Maybe you should try singing along.
Maybe I should.
Very slowly, though. Very stoned. Yeah. Yeah.
Geekily conceptual.
Yeah.
Clever.
Not really, but yeah. I mean, I heard a record yesterday that reminded me of this. There was a record by, this is totally unfashionable. This is not the Scott 4 or the Great Dusty B-Sides album that you're supposed to come up with inspirations. It's a record by a band called Swing Out Sister.
Yeah.
You remember them? And the other record called You On My Mind, which is like this Bacharach sort of inspired string-laden thing with lots of key changes and stuff. And I used to love this. It came out in about 88 or something. And I always adored this record, but it's one of those records that, you know, it wasn't exactly spoken about during Suede interviews, you know, as lots of things were. But that was a big inspiration. I'd always wanted to make a record like that. And I didn't know much Bacharach at the time, Bacharach and David. I mean, I knew them from my childhood or whatever. You know those songs at the back of your mind. But those, in terms of the songs that I would have known that inspired me, that would have been that. Was a big part of it. Yeah.
Well, they're a big part of my life because I was in Guyana for 9 years from 78 to 87, so I missed out on British music from 78 to 87. Unless it was a hit in the States, I didn't hear it. So I never heard of Swing Out Sister until I got back.
It's a great record. It's not like this.
I knew about
not ripped it off,
Sade.
but it's like a. I did rip it off. No, I didn't. But anyway, so and there's You Do as well, and You Do was something that I'd written for Dogman Star, but right at the end of it, well, kind of towards the
So
middle
you wrote
end
Yes
of it.
after You Do?
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, You Do had hanging around, and we'd recorded it as Suede, but as like a guitar and drum track, and it was never going to get on the record because it was just too late in the day to get taken seriously.
Lucky me again.
And yeah, and but yeah, I always thought they worked. I mean, the thing is, for me, I always wanted to make a great pop single, and not an album, form a band. I didn't want to form a group. It's the last thing I needed in my life at that point, and I just wanted to make a great disco bag 7-inch with a great noise on it. And Yes and You Do would be the two singles, or two A-sides or something like that. That's the only inspiration I had. That's the only idea I had. you know. So it was never like, you know, there's going to be a name for the group, and you know, I hadn't thought anything through. When you're in a group, you think about the name, you think about the logo, you think about how you're going to look, what the photos are going to be like, what the sleeves are going to be like, all that kind of stuff. And with this, I didn't think of any of that, and it was almost the point to think of how pure you could think about music, and how it could just be a noise, just be a sound. That, hence the title, The Sound Of, rather than there being, you know, a sort of poetic title, you know, that referenced lyrics or something. For me, it was about the sound and what, you know, in the same way as like with T-Rex records or something, you put your head into it, and some of it can be quite banal. If you really get into it, if you want to write the words down, you might be getting into trouble. But actually, if you put your head in the speaker, it's just this thing that comes around you that, you know, blows your mind, you know, exhilarates you, and Motown does as well. And that's that's how I came to Yes and You Do. So that's and so on this record they bookend it naturally, because that's always the way it should have been. But it was the stuff in the middle that you know, was
which was really
which was more surprising.
It was that well, people think about the sound of McAlmont Butler, and they think that a lot of them think of it as an album, but actually, I think that's why it's worth reissuing it now. It's actually 2 A-sides and a collection of Bs.
Yeah, it was a compilation at the time.
CD1, CD2 days.
But I mean, this is I like it. I've really grown to like this, and I didn't listen to it for a very long time after doing it, after putting it together, because it was just like, oh, just put that together, you know. But actually now, the last couple of years, I've just started to like it as an album, and it's an interesting thing that you can turn it. If you say it's a compilation, it's almost like it's like you know, you're downgrading it straight away, its status. But if actually you say this is an album and listen to it in that way, it's much more interesting for me, and you can see something that's quite much more surprising, because basically everyone knows it for Yes, but actually if you get to the middle of it, the songs in it make Yes more interesting, and make the rest of it, because it shows how many different places we're both shooting in at the same time during that very short period of time. It's done in a pretty short period of time. A lot of this, I can't even remember. I mean, I was listening to this the other day when I was doing the mastering, and I was thinking, because there's no demos for most of it, like there's a couple of demos, I have no idea how you came up with any of the words for a lot of it, because there's no demo. I mean, normally I would have had a demo and then I would have given it to you, and I still have that somewhere, but I don't have it for most of these songs. And it's almost like I just don't know. I can't remember how we got from home into a studio and recording these, and did it really quickly. I mean, most of it was done in like an afternoon, like each song.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that when people heard Yes, when my friends heard the demo of Yes for the first time, they were all like, you know, this is going to be a hit, don't you, David? I'm like, I have no idea. I mean, because I was... I'd become quite disillusioned with the whole idea of stardom by then. I was just doing my thing, kind of drifting around, you know, I'm doing whatever. And I liked your work. I was excited about the idea of doing something with you and seeing where it went. But I didn't hear the hit in Yes. I knew that I liked what we'd done with it. And for me, the rest of the material felt like hanging out, really.
Yeah.
Just go around to Bernard's place. What's this new piece of music that he's come up with? Okay, yeah, I'll you know, do a vocal in the bathroom. Why not? What is that shaker thing you've got in that box there? You know, just throw some words at it. And in one of the issues for me then was that I was just using your music. It felt like I was using your music to tell very personal stories, and you didn't appear to have an opinion about it. And I was like, you know, well, do you know what I've just added to your music? Do you understand the story that I've just told, based on what your music has inspired? And so that was a bit like, at any point now, Bernard's going to say to me, actually, David, could you adjust that? I don't like that. But it never happened. Yeah. So that was quite weird. That kind of had me feeling a bit tense.
Because I just thought that's what you were supposed to be doing.
Okay.
That's what your job was. And you were doing it, and I didn't know. I never ask people what a song's about. I never ask singers what the lyrics are about.
Ever?
Never. Some occasionally afterwards are saying, no, I don't really want to know, to be honest. I think partly because growing up, when I listen to records, still when I listen to records, I don't really need to know the story in the sense that the specific personal story, because it's supposed to be about you, isn't it? You've got to relate to it yourself. If it's just a historical document of somebody else's life, then it's not that interesting to me. I think you have to find yourself in a song to really love it. Hence why people like Yes and don't realise, they get married to it and don't realise it's a massive fuck you about splitting up.
I've been asked to sing it at weddings.
Exactly, yeah. But that's because people find themselves in it and they find a lyric and they find a sentiment in it, but they don't always follow the story very closely. I mean, we've had this discussion before. I mean, some people do. I mean, Elisa does. She's more like that. She'll get very clued into a lyric, and then she has to follow a story in a song, and I'm just like, I've never heard that before. She's like, what do you mean you've never heard that? That's why it's good. And I'm like, I didn't realise that. I've just never followed it in that way.
Yeah, I'm definitely on that side of the fence.
Yeah, but you're readers. You're both, academics. She's like that, and so.
Well, I just think, I do know that. I mean, in many cases, like the Bee Gees, for example, I love them, but I have no idea to this day what they are saying on Saturday Night Fever, and going. I don't know what they're saying at all, but I love what they're doing. So I do kind of get that people don't necessarily listen to words, but I like the idea that if they do get around to listening to them or reading them, that there is actually something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I don't listen. I mean, it's very important that it's not I don't listen to words. Just I put them together like musical phrases. That's the way I see it, images, but I don't put them together. So all of these, I love words, I love all the words. And if there was anything that I didn't like, I probably would have pulled you up on it and said, oh, that's not as, that could be better, or because it doesn't sound good, or there's something cheesy in it, or something like that, or it doesn't run off the singing tongue very well, That's always an issue for me. But in terms of going into the stories, if you've got stories to tell and they're personal, I'm not going to get you to sit down and talk about it, because that's the whole point in singing it.
Well, yeah, but I'm just looking at.
But do you want? Is that what you want? You want to explain the story?
No, it was just
when you're singing.
It was just a weirdness at the time. I just. I now when you say that now, it makes complete sense that you would say that you would say if it was a problem.
Yeah.
But the fact that you said nothing at all was a bit like.
Yeah.
Any day now I'm going to be busted because I've got that whole fraud thing going on in my head. I feel like a fraud most of the time. I'm like, what am I doing here? Are they sure they know who they're working with?
Yeah, but so do I.
Blah, blah.
I mean, I was the same. I'm just like, I'm getting away with every moment of this at every point. It's
exactly.
Like, I'm just standing in the studio.
Getting away with it. Yeah.
I'm standing in the studio and I've hardly written a piece of music, and I'm just directing people, and the only way I could cope with it, was to try and get everybody on edge. And try and make it so that everyone's on edge, because I was on edge all the time, But I just thought that was a good thing to do. You get in a room and you're lucky, and any minute now someone's going to pull the plug. So, but while we're in here, we've got all these great musicians in a brilliant studio. Set it on fire. That's what I used to think. Just set the fucking place on fire. Do something before then you have to go outside and everything's boring again. And that's what I used to always think. So, when we were doing Yes, and I remember standing in front of Mako in that Mike Hedges cellar and jumping up and down while he was trashing the shit out of the drums and me playing guitar in front of him just to try and get him into that frame of mind. And it's the same thing, but essentially a lot of the time I didn't know what I was doing, and so I was making up the next step. But you always have to let everyone know that you are absolutely in control and that you know everything
what you
that's
were doing,
going.
though.
I didn't really, but if you let everyone know you really know what you're doing and you're in control, then the confidence of the rooms goes with you. Everyone just does something right, and then you can say, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
That sounds to me like a bizarrely convoluted way of saying that you know what you were doing.
No, I didn't, because I had a sketch. Always had a sketch, and I always knew I had a vision.
Well, I remember you saying in Mike's studio. I don't want it to sound modern. Don't make it sound modern.
But obviously, Yes is different because Yes was completely structured and everything. Every note and every bar stayed from the demo to the finished recording, I had a vision for it, but there's a lot of filling in the gaps. And that's dependent on being around great people that you can put in a situation, put in an environment, and hope that if you put them in, into the right frame of mind, the great things come out of it. Like, I had an idea, like, I wanted to do something today. We're going to do something like Prince or something, but I didn't know what that was going to be. But it's the frame of mind. So that's what's the excuse this time is for me.
Were you thinking Prince?
Yeah, because it's playful and it's a bit daft. And it's a bit, there's lots of little silly, almost comedy runs in it, and but obviously it doesn't sound anything like Prince. I mean, I think you're right. One of the things about Yes is that people weren't that into it. I mean, don't forget, it took like 6 months for it to come out, and I remember it being like, oh yeah, we weren't sure whether it was going to come out and when it was going to come out and stuff. And I remember there being a sort of a lack of faith in what it was supposed to be. And in the meantime, we could just do what we wanted because it didn't really matter to anyone. And that's why we came up with all these other things that are quite shooting in different musical directions.
But it's interesting to hear what you say about doing your take on Prince, if that's the right way to put it, with What's the Excuse This Time? Because we didn't have that conversation. There's no reason why we should have had it. And my response to it was quite Princey, I would say.
Yeah.
But I was listening to it and thinking, how did I come up with something so Princey? But then what you were saying is that you had already invested it with a kind of a Prince sense already.
Yeah.
And then people who listened to it thought, oh, that one's really Prince. I'm like, I know, but I don't know why. Because to me, particularly the chorus in What's the Excuse This Time makes me think of T-Rex. And never asked for much. But then Prince did Cream, and that sounded quite T-Rex.
Right, yeah.
So that's so Prince was obviously listening to a lot of British rock as well.
Yeah.
But I think it's quite a purple verse and a very British chorus.
Yeah.
What's the excuse this time?
Yeah.
But I was completely taking the.
But you see, that works then, doesn't it? Because I didn't say anything.
No.
But I mean, I wasn't a great communicator, probably. But I mean, there you go. Sorry. But all these things worked, right?
I'm not complaining.
Yeah, no, but it's difficult. I know, it's not supposed to be easy, is it?
Well, yeah, no, it's just a bizarre thing. I mean, what were you thinking about with The Right Thing?
Just bluesy, swampy thing, Howlin' Wolf, that kind of stuff, Yeah, that kind of thing, something really dirty and swampy and, odd. And again, just sort of, swinging all the time. I mean, the thing is, with Yes, I decided immediately that I was never going to try and write 10 other tunes that were like Yes.
No.
And that would be a terrible, even though that's what everybody would have wanted me to come up with a piece of music like that. And it was much more interesting.
That's a headache.
Yeah, but if you decide
to
straight
write 10
away...
yeses, that's a headache.
It is, but if you decide straight away you're not going to do it, it's a brilliant freedom. And it's not exactly giving everyone what they want, but who gives a fuck, hey, about everyone else? And it's more interesting. I mean, so, I think that the approach of a lot of these songs goes in very different directions. And I think that's why you respond in quite a personal way. Because I don't think you're thinking you have to write a universal pop song every, over and over. You're thinking in a very personal way, in a characterful way. And if from my end, I'm putting lots of personality into it and sort of selecting, odd sort of, places I want to be.
But you had a tendency to be quite austere with regards to what people played. I remember you, well, certainly on tour anyway, you actually specifying no inversions, no sauces.
Oh, the musicians.
Yeah, and major six or anything. Just the straightforward 3 notes.
Well, yeah.
Play what the chord is.
Keyboard players really bother me. Yeah, because guitar players play piano like this, down, 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 and it always sounds great because of that. Piano players can play with 2 hands, and it's like really, If I wanted to learn how to do that, I would have done that. So it's the keyboard players often find it hard to like play do 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 do. Get a piano player to play that. It's very hard. because they'll just have to imbue it with all the flourishes, gets all Clayderman-like, as we used to call it. And yeah, so, well, I mean, if you want somebody to play a minor or put in a seventh, you'll tell them. As simple as that. Yeah, I'm very specific about all that
What, you
stuff.
think they're quite willful and they just add it?
No, I think people are sloppy. Can be sloppy if they're not. If you haven't written something and if you're not inside it completely and it's every bit of its conception, then you're more likely to be just like, oh, well, it doesn't matter.
So when you came up with the piano part for Although, that was that style, that kind of guitar-y style. That's a guitarist's piano.
Yeah, it's a very simple, soulful thing. But I didn't play that. That's Helen.
Dong, 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 dong.
Yeah.
But didn't you tell her?
Yeah, I showed her how to do it. Yeah, I showed her what the part was. Yeah, and yeah, she played in it. Played it great. But what's the excuse? All the other keyboards I played, I think, most of them. Anyway.
Yeah, of course, it's a piano. But what's the excuse as well?
Yeah. So, I mean, Don't Call It Soul. So there was a thing about we were talking about how. It referenced soul for me. I mean, that stuck out for me. The fact that it referenced soul music. That's how I look at that title. Don't Call It Soul, because a lot of what we expected to do was to make, real down soul music. That's the expectation, and that actually, so it's more interesting to see what happens when we don't make straightforward soul music.
I don't know enough about the response to that, because I haven't really had a conversation with anybody about Don't Call It Soul. I know why I wrote what I did, but it was basically like a letter to Marvin Gaye, which is why the first line is, "I have to tell you what's been going on," and it was sort of a complaint of mine about what they were calling soul these days. Not really being soul. But we never had that conversation.
No. But you see, anyway, that's perfect. See, I hear things that I would have heard that at the time, and I thought, right, well, that's correct. Box ticked, move along.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as the song gets written, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's it, yeah. I mean, for me, the thing is what comes out the speakers. Although I do understand that there is a human side that gets tricky with relating that. But I just always think that if you focus all the time on just what comes out the speakers and nothing else, then that's the only way you can be pure about the whole aesthetic of it.
I mean, the thing is that after all these years of writing, what I have found is that there have been times where I think, okay, now I've found the method. Now I know how to come up with a lyric, and without it being too uncomfortable. And I go about pursuing that method, and then it's just, no, this isn't a surefire way to get it done. So you've got to come up with a range of techniques, and. In some cases, I think Jimmy Webb wrote about it in his book. It's like, you just write a letter to somebody.
Right.
And that's how that came about. Disappointment was kind of a song about, lyrically. What was it about musically for you, Disappointment?
I don't know. Again, it was probably changing gear and saying, okay, well, we've done the Silly Prince one, and the sort of odd acoustic one, so let's do something rock again and quite expansive. Probably that, getting the chance to go in the studio, great people, and just seeing what could happen. I've done a few times, I've done things where you write a piece of music and then you leave a big gap in the middle, and the idea is you leave the gap as just a blank space, and you see what happens, and you tell everyone you know exactly what's going on, but actually you just leave it to chance. So basically, if you have a piece of music that's quite structured, a verse and a chorus and stuff before that, when everyone hits this middle bit, you can just suddenly relax and see what happens. And that's what happened. I mean, I've done that with suede things and with, lots of things since then.
I don't know if I've ever been drunk enough to tell you this, but Disappointment Right. What I found in my in the time that I'm working with musicians is that there's just something about bass players. Remember we were having this conversation about you're a child, you're watching Top of the Pops, and your personality, your character is basically selecting the right musician for you. Well, there's just something about bass players. They're often very likable and very attractive. Right. I always find myself getting on famously with a bass player and kind of fancying him too. And Disappointment is about me having the hots for a bass player on tour.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What, the bass player?
Yeah, and that's why it's called Disappointment, because I didn't get my leg over.
Oh, for fuck's sake. What? And did he play on Disappointment?
No!
Okay, just to clear that up.
No. Mick's my mate. Mick's my best mate.
Oh, right, it wasn't Mick then. Good.
No.
I'm glad we cleared that up.
No.
Yeah.
It was an American bass player, I'll say that much.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, damn.
So that's what I added to Disappointment. So you can see I'm thinking, I've just completely written this cruise story on Bernard's tune.
Yeah.
And he hasn't even clocked it.
Well, it's not that I haven't clocked it.
Getting away with it.
Yeah,
getting away with
well, that's good, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, I definitely didn't realise that. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. No, I just thought it was. Well, no, I didn't get that.
Well, I suppose how about you was more obvious. I would have said.
What in what way?
Well, how about you is about going out, getting drunk, and cruising in bars.
Right.
But I mean, that's really clear. You know, drunk and waiting for you. Will you have a drink with me? Cruising, 2 days over. Number 3, are you for me?
And you know, how do you think that was risque in 1995 to say that in a song?
No. I've always been. I've always felt there's something quite pure, artistically, in honesty about drunkenness.
No, but do you think to say that in 1995 was risque?
No.
In song?
Risque, I thought, although was risque.
Right.
I thought that was quite dangerous because that's actually an ode. That's an ode to somebody on a deathbed.
Yeah.
So I thought that was quite heavy.
But you know what? When you say that, I wouldn't say anything. Respond to that. The only time I remember you singing that is I remember you sang that in the control room, Studio One at RAC, and I was never going to come in and say, "Cool. Anyway, what is it about this bloke?" You know, you're not going to sit down and start asking the story once someone's sung something, are you?
Well, although.
Yeah, about an although in particular. You know, like,
yeah.
God, is this about, you know, what's going on? You know, I think it's much better said in a song in that way. I think a lot of these things are. That's why I wouldn't have voiced it. I mean, that one is obvious. You know. I mean, when I hear that now, it reminds me of how close we were to the 80s at that point, because I don't hear many songs discuss that now. And whereas at the time it was still topical. Yeah. Just about. Yeah, it would have been. But still, you know, quite unusual to hear in a pop song. You know, just because I don't remember, you know, I mean, a lot of, you know, I don't remember those issues being brought up very often.
Well, tonight was about you.
Right. About me cruising.
No.
That was disappointment.
No. I was. I don't know. I suppose it was a friendly song.
Right.
It was like, you know, a kind of understanding of what you'd been through, and I thought it'd be quite nice to have a song on the album, you know, that showed some kind of determination to, you know, press on, to forge ahead. So that was what tonight was about.
Right.
And it didn't bother. Well, actually, I told you that it was about you.
Did you?
Yeah.
I probably just like, oh yeah.
And I remember what you said. He's like, don't ever say that. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah. I probably just went away saying.
But I didn't change it.
It's another one about cruising.
No, there are only 2 cruise songs on this album.
I don't even remember that. Yeah, but I love Tonight. It's my favourite one, I think. I really love it.
Well, that's just as well, because it's actually written from your vantage point.
Right. Well, that's good. See, if you told me before that, you know, and then we went and recorded it. Like, oh, it's a song about me. I've got to make it good, haven't I? What am I going to do?
But lots of people like Tonight. I mean, that's one of the more popular tracks on there.
Yeah, it's a lovely song.
Yeah, and You'll Lose a Good Thing. I was astonished that you had the concept of taping down the chord. I just thought...
What, the organ?
Yeah, at that point I thought, this guy's a genius.
It's just because I can't
Well,
play...
I had thought it before, but at that point I thought it was evident.
It's what, because I can't play an organ?
I know, but still, I mean, you could have just done that.
It's the theory of building building blocks, you know, the thing of... it was the, you know, from that Spirit of Eden Talk record, where things are built from, you know, a Hammond organ or one note and built up and brought down. But you layer things very subtly and very specifically, but within a drone, you know. So that's one of the ideas behind it. I didn't really like the song, to be honest, because Jeff Travis said, "Oh, this is my favourite song," and I was like, well, the only thing I thought about is it had really simple chords, a simple melody, and a good lyric. But I didn't actually love the record, you know. So I thought, well, there's a good song there, but we've got to do something obviously very abstract, because it wouldn't be in our nature to just go and do a soul... I think he probably wanted us to do a lovely soul version of it, you know, like quite an authentic thing. And then we went and did the most abstract thing he could do with it.
I think it works really well for that.
It's brilliant, yeah, because it's pure torch in the vocal.
What I was going to ask you was, do you think that Jeff thought we'd have a hit with that?
Yeah, probably. I wouldn't be surprised.
Do you think he was angling for that?
I wouldn't be surprised.
If you do this properly, guys.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
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 I thought so.
Well, tough shit, you know.
Well, no, that's why I like what we did with it.
Yeah.
Because it, well, to my mind, if you put that onto the right soundtrack, it would be a hit anyway. If you, like, you know, began a memorable, I don't know, movie with that song or closed with it, it would do really well. Or if it was put at a pivotal scene in a film, I mean, that, you know, that can get a record into the charts as much as anything.
Yeah. We only did one gig at that time, which I don't remember much of either.
Hanover Grand.
I remember Edwin Collins supporting us.
Yeah.
Supporting us, opening. That's bizarre enough, isn't it? Playing A Girl Like You, when nobody gave a shit about that song. Before it had come out, and it had come out, and it had been a total flop in this country, and then...
Really?
Yeah. Edwin played I think I played it with him. I think I got up and played it with him. Yeah. No one cared at all about Edwin, or A Girl Like You. Which is funny. Yeah. But I remember then, well, we only did, then we did Jules Holland. And... So that was probably...
That was the one Dottie Springfield was on, wasn't it?
Yeah, she was on it, yeah.
Sinead O'Connor and Alison Moyet,
I know,
all that lot.
I know, Val sent me the list of people who were on it, and I was like, oh my God, I don't remember any of those people. I don't remember anything. Apart from standing in the middle and the guy going like this at the end of You Do, like this, telling me to, like this, stop. And me just grinning at him, just going, I'm playing guitar here, I don't care what you're doing, mate.
But you were doing arabesques.
Arabesques?
At the beginning of Yes, you do a total arabesque.
What's that?
You kind of like go, ring, and then your foot just goes up like that.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's
like, you know...
I can't watch it really. I mean, it's just some kind of skeleton really just out of control. I think that's the way I felt about it. Yeah. I remember about...
There's another moment in that Jules Holland video where I'm really lucky that I move.
Right, what, to duck?
Because, no, you're here, and your solo's just about to come in, and I'm sort of down there with my tambourine, and for some reason I step forward just as you go...
Right, across the back.
Yeah. But, I don't know, I really... That was really nice. That was a really special moment.
Quite enduring performance.
Yeah.
I think that the concept of all this was for it to be quite special, and for it to be something that you had to sort of like a limited edition almost. You know, something that's really just wasn't everywhere. Wasn't on every TV show. You weren't in every magazine. You weren't all over the place. It was something that would just take you by surprise and just like blow you away and then just go away. And that was always the idea for me. And I think it kind of worked. Although I think we could have sold shitloads of records if we'd gone on tour and done all those things. But at the same time, if I think about it now, I really like the fact that it's not spoilt by that. I think as a record, as a moment, it's more enduring for that reason.
Yeah, and it more or less survives as one.
Yeah.
Because people don't really circulate on the social networks. You see yes on later a lot. And
so what do you think
Twitter,
when you played
you
it?
see yes a lot.
When you played it last, so we did these shows last year, and we played the Union Chapel, and you know, and what did you think when you were singing yes then, singing these songs? When you look out, I mean, what were you thinking?
Well, excuse me. It's that channel experience. You know, actually, we created something that no longer belongs to us. Really, it's been so embraced by people that aren't us. But actually, it feels like performing a duty.
Right. Because at the time,
I'm happy to perform.
It's much more confusing, isn't it? What it is and where it fits, things fit in.
Yeah.
And actually, when you play something later on, then suddenly you realise it's almost like a big relief.
Do you remember a television producer at the time introducing us to his sister? Who'd actually become quite ill and had lost the use of her legs.
No.
You don't remember that?
What at the time of Jules Holland?
No, it was Top of the Pops.
Right.
One of the producers at Top of the Pops' sister came down just to see us because it was one of the things that enabled her to get up.
Right.
And when I heard stuff like that, I mean, I back then I didn't know where to look. I'm sort of like, well, that's a bit strange, but now I'm like, that's what the song did. You just have to let that be. So when we did it at the Union Chapel, and we were teasing everybody by going off and coming back on and going off and coming back on, and then we sang Goodbye, Goodbye, and there were all these people in the audience going, no, no. And then it was your birthday, and we said, well, we couldn't end the evening without, you know, doing this song. And we started singing Happy Birthday, and once again it was like, ah. Then Yes came in, and everybody was up on their feet, and you know, it's not a case of being a Beatle or George Michael or anything, but you know, it's really nice to have written a classic record.
But I mean, what about the fact that a lot of these other songs in between, you know, you're put through moments that aren't like Yes at all. I mean, you've been asked to sing quite spontaneously, come up with lyrics on the spot, and then me saying things like, "Can you stand and hold this mic while I put you through my AC30 and distort it?" Yeah. I mean, why do you just do it? Why didn't you just say no? I mean, why is it? I mean, I think, how did they get away with a lot of these things? You know, a lot of people just wouldn't.
Well, I mean,
they're quite abstract things to do with someone who's got an amazing voice and should be singing just pop songs.
I think I've been quite, because I don't play anything, and I'm not very technically minded. I mean, I just really know how to sing and how to write words. That's what I know. And but I do want to keep it interesting. So I would say that I like to work with people who I see as visionary. I would say that you are. And what I mean by that is somebody who really has, you know, however you unpack it, however you describe it, you know what you want to do when you get into a studio. You know which sounds you want to use. You know what the noise that you want to make is, and you make that happen pretty quickly and quite efficiently. And when someone is capable of doing that, well, that's a situation in which I feel comfortable. If there's uncertainty coming from the arranger producer, that's when I'm likely to say no. If they don't know what they're doing, well then it's not a comfortable place for me to be.
Well, I didn't. But
Well,
like I say,
you certainly seem to.
I gave up a good show.
Well, I mean, some of the stuff that came off was absolutely gold. I mean, one of the things that I remember really like being blown away by was the sort of flamenco string thing that came in at the end of How About You. That was just like astonishing because and the strings weren't played.
It's all in the mellotron.
And I just didn't know how you made that happen.
I don't know.
Yeah. But you sort of took a song about drinking at the city of Quebec and turned it into this epic journey, which is amazing.
Well,
that's what I'm talking about.
It's
visionary
trust, isn't
stuff.
it? Well, it's trust, isn't it? Like I said, if you create a situation where everyone thinks you're in control, then everyone trusts and goes with it and is at their best. And that's, it's like managing a bad football team. If you're a great coach, you can do almost anything, with just trust and sort of confidence. I think there has to be some technique in there. A good goalie. Mako's a good goalie.
I don't know. I mean, that's a really weird thing to hear from you. Really.
Really? Why?
Because it sounds like you're a chancer or something, and you're not. You're very capable.
Well, I think I think it's capable of doing within what I do. And you work with it,
Which is really capable.
and it satisfies me. Yeah, it satisfies me.
Yeah.
It's not. There's no symphonies, but it's,
Well, it's not exactly a shabby track record, Bernard.
No, but I'm happy with it. Yeah. I like the situation. What I'm trying to say is, I like that situation that you can create something in that way, through just, creating an environment. I really like that. In all things, every record I make, you try and make it happen, make something happen. It doesn't have to be 4,000 notes and incredible technical ability, but it's got to be personality and it's got to move you.
What has to be in place for you to go to work?
Well, there has to be, some technical ability, but just, personality and a desire, So, I mean, obviously with you, and it was, you were for a start, you were complete. The two people I mentioned before were, big, made lots of records and were bigger names in that sense. So it was much more attractive when you came along. That was just, a completely fresh thing, but actually with an incredible voice. It was just completely, which suited the pure aesthetic that I wanted out of Yes. There was something that you just heard, and you didn't think of anything else. Nothing got in the way. You just heard it and felt it, and then you went away again. So that suited me to the ground. Same with Mako. I mean, it's not the part he's playing on the drums isn't like some extraordinary paradiddles going on or something like that. It's just, but it's the passion that somebody had getting it. Also, he never spoke English at the time, or very little. I don't remember speaking to him at all, just going like, for cymbals, and we go, and him just going, and him doing it. And I love people like that. I love it when you relate to that. It's like when you get cats to do something, you want. It's like, this is great. I love cats, because they're just, it just happens. You don't have to be speaking the same language.
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw Mako, I walked into a rehearsal room, and there he was at the drums, and I thought, wow, he's cool. Because it seemed a bit more like well, he's a Buddhist, but it seemed a bit more like a spiritual practice than actual musicianship. Yeah. It seemed to come from deep within.
Yeah, but everyone's got that.
I hadn't really seen that in a drummer before.
Well, not in that way. And but I mean, everyone's got that, and I think it's just about tapping that, isn't it? When you get in a room, you've got a few hours. Anyway, I like it. Fuck you. I don't care. Everyone likes it. Good.
Yeah, and it's good that more people are going to hear it again.
Yeah. Right. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well done.
Oh, congratulations.